Success wasn't just a dream for Killian. It was the only thing keeping him alive. At the age of 16, Killian had to grow up extremely fast, taking care of his brothers and sisters as well as his mother, who had very poor spending habits. A lot of times she would go out for weeks, sometimes even months at a time, leaving him to take care of his younger brothers and sisters. In a house that was poorly kept, no running water, no power or gas, infested with roaches, rats, mold, and mildew. He knew at a young age that he had to make it by any means necessary, and he vowed to always do that. Aside from taking care of his brothers and sisters and doing whatever he had to do to make ends meet, from selling snacks and even some other sketchy, questionable things, he always had big, wide eyes for what he deemed as true love, since he never received it in his short childhood. Time went on and he suffered the loss of his baby brother, which only left him with his two sisters. His mother and father were still nowhere in the picture. It would be long, tumultuous nights where Killian would pray for death, but death would never come. Time would fly by. He was graduating from high school, and once he entered college, he began his love for music and anything to escape the cruel, cold world that he known as his reality. He would start releasing music. Unfortunately, no one wanted to hear that weak shithole. He had finally had enough. He began saying, "What do I have to do? What am I doing wrong? Why am I not enough?" And said he would give anything to make it. Unbeknownst to him, something was listening. Something powerful was listening and was about to answer.
Killian.
A deep voice called out to him. He was startled. He looked around.
Killian.
It called out again. He looked in the mirror that was sitting in front of him, but he saw nothing behind him. He got up, but as soon as he stood up, he saw a man, not just any man. This man seemed to be him in the future, or at least everything he dreamed and hoped of becoming. The man stood before him in all of his glory and says,
"I can give you what you want. I can help you get where you want to be. Only thing you have to do is trust in me."
Killian rubbed his eyes and was sure this was somehow a dream, so he was wondering, "Who are you? How did you get here?" The man looked at him and said,
"You know exactly who I am. I've been here the whole time. I was here with you when you were a child. You were abused, neglected, mistreated, left to fend for yourself and your brothers and sisters. I was there for you on the day of your brother's funeral when neither of your parents even showed up. I was there for you from the very beginning."
Although he did not trust this shadowy figure, he says, "Fine, what can you offer me? How much money do you have?" He says,
"No, what I'm about to give you is far greater than money."
And he was like, "This honestly seems like I'd be making a deal with the..."
"No, you don't have to give me anything. I'm actually going to take something away from you. I can remove what holds you back."
Killian asked, "What are you about to take away from me?" The man didn't answer. He reached out, touched Killian's chest, and said,
"Don't worry. In the morning, you will see a change."
And just like that, the man vanished. The next morning, Killian awoke. He was sure everything had been a dream, but this time he felt different. He felt powerful. He awoke with a focus that was so sharp that it seemed to cut time and air itself. He began getting in writing frenzies with new inspirations that seemed to be oozing out of the wall. He wrote 5 albums worth of album material in little to no time. He began piecing together fashion ideas that seemed to be out of this world. He began to write monologues and scripts that seemed to go against the saying, "There's nothing new under the sun." Still, the man's words haunted him. What did he mean by removing something that distracted him? He went out that afternoon to celebrate by himself. He took himself to one of his favorite bar spots. It seemed like he had men lining up at his feet to sit next to him. He felt like he was a celebrity, like he had already made it. One dude caught his attention that he was infatuated with. They shared a few good laughs, exchanged numbers. He told him he would be contacting him later. Killian, excited and joyful, he left. Once he got to the door of the bar, he felt a cold shockwave. The ringing sound of death was in his right ear, and in his left ear, he heard a familiar deep voice say to him,
"One distraction, gone."
Killian left the bar and headed home that night, awaiting a text or a call from his lover. To no avail, it didn't come. So from that point, he began recording all of the music that he had written in one night. Against one of his friends' better judgment, he put out an entire album worth of material that night. It was his first project that he had ever put out. And since he was a rookie in the game, it wasn't advised that he should put out a large body of work. Literally, in a matter of seconds, his success didn't start slowly. It hit him like a ton of bricks. Moments after the release, streams skyrocketed. Sales exploded. TikToks were being made. Challenges were being done. He was going viral left and right, all in the matter of minutes. He was ecstatic, but something in his chest was unsettling. It was cold. He knew something wasn't right, but he couldn't put his finger on it just yet. Woke up the next morning and the numbers were still climbing. Still more posts, still more reposts, everything he had ever hoped and dreamed for. He even was making a great sum of money from his music and other endeavors. It seems like he was not only the man on campus, but the man in his city, soon to be the man that would take over the world. Kalian soon had everything that he had dreamed and hoped for, and it seemed like even more was to come. But every celebration felt like a funeral. He was honestly having his way in life. It was no price tag he ever had to check. If he wanted it, he could buy 3 of it. He would splurge on family and friends. He had his share of suitors, but still something was missing. And then one day, he met him. He met someone who seemed connected to him on a deeper level. He had never believed in soulmates before until he had met this one particular person.
Hi, my name is Quincy.
He introduced himself to Kalian. Kalian, he said short and dry. They began to chat it up, and once again, like all the others before, he instantly hit it off. They exchanged numbers, spent a great deal of time talking, hanging out. He finally felt as though his life was complete. But the butterflies soon turned into bat wings. Only a week after talking to Quincy, did Quincy begin to show his true colors. He wasn't after Kalian for love or anything romantic. He simply was sexually attracted to him and wanted to use him for clout. Kalian soon discovered this and cut ties with him, or so he thought. They would eventually go on a long back and forth, break up, make up, on again, off again, over a series of years. Although Kalian would try and go out and meet other people, Quincy would still be in the back of his mind. Some of the people, granted, were not worth a damn anyway, but he still would have given some of them a chance. Even the most basic, kind one, he wanted to give a chance to. But calls went unanswered, texts were left on read. Sometimes he would get numbers from nice men and they would just magically disappear out of his phone. He would see someone at a coffee shop, and the one day he built up the courage to say something to them, they vanished and were never to be seen again. One day while sitting down at this particular coffee shop, he thought to himself, maybe it wasn't a dream, but what actually did I trade in for success? One day, Kalian got a call from Quincy. It was unexpected. He sounded frantic.
Hey, I just need to talk to you.
Kalian told him that he would always be there for him. Quincy then proceeded to rush to Kalian. And as he was on the phone talking to him, the phone started breaking up. But Quincy was seemingly confessing his love, and he apologized for all the things that he had previously put him through, and was trying to explain that his actions were not of his own, that he felt like he was being the phone call dropped. Kalian was heartbroken, shattered. His body felt cold. That feeling in his chest that he had before seemed to have grown. He went outside and waited to see his headlights pull up. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. As Trina would say, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and there was no sign of him. However, someone else caught his eye across the yard. He looked towards that person, and he realized it was another familiar face. This time, it was a crush he had had for a long period of time. They had spoken the DMs before, but nothing had ever materialized. But now, this was his moment. He walked towards the man. He reached out his hand. They embraced for a hug. But Kalian was now numb and felt absolutely nothing. He thought to himself, what changed from me walking across the yard? His long-lost crush tried to hold a conversation, but Kalian just abruptly walked off and back into the house because he knew what he had to do. He knew who he had to call. No, it wasn't Quincy. It wasn't any of his past suitors. It wasn't his friends or family. He knew he had to sit down and call. The man that he now knew was not him from the future. He knew this man by a different name. He knew he had to go back and have a conversation with the devil. Kalian went back to his room and he called out to him and demanded answers. He said, what exactly did you take from me? You took my heart? No answer. Kalian said, oh, now you're not here? I thought you were always there. And that's when that familiar deep voice called out to him.
Yes, my friend, I am always here. And no, in fact, I did not take your heart. You can touch your chest and see that it's still beating. I did not take your love because you still love your friends, your family, and your career. That is what you loved and wanted the most, right? That's what you called out to me that night and asked for me to grant.
Kalian cut him off and said, I didn't ask you for anything. I just asked, what did I have to do? And he says,
well, I'm the only one listening, and I'm the only one here.
Kalian asked him, what did you take from me?
I never took your heart. I never took your love. I took your ability to be loved and to love romantically. A small price to pay for success, right? This is all you've ever wanted since you were a little boy.
Kalian furiously, give it back, he shouted. The devil said,
nothing can be created or destroyed. It can only change form. So I took your heart and I polished it into success. So if you want your heart back, give me your success and you will be able to love again.
The devil told him,
I know this can be a lot for you to take on. So I'll give you time. When the sun reaches its highest point today, I need an answer from you. So Kalian, what will you choose? Will you choose your happily ever after with your knight in shining armor, to grow old with, to love, to cherish, to be loved, to be cherished, to have kids, be fruitful, multiply, but turn into the laughing stock of every industry you dare knock on door? Or will you choose riches and success of the world, to be an international superstar, to have people chant your name, your music, idols erected in your image, posters on every wall, billboards on every corner, money so long that you can spend millions of dollars a day and never go broke, but you die alone? What will you choose?
Kalian went out that morning, sat at a couple of brunch spots, tried to throw himself on a couple of guys, but to no avail. He logged into all of his streaming apps, and streams were up an impressive 2,000%. Sales had skyrocketed. He hadn't worked a job in months. Then he got a call from an agent and a manager promising him to go on tour within the next couple of weeks. His songs began to rise on the charts. He quickly closed the phone and he thought, what choice is he going to make? What is he going to do? Would he make the right choice? He called his friends and he asked them all, in a hypothetical situation, what would they do in this situation? Their answers varied, but he knew deep down no one could solve this problem for him but him. 11:30 a.m. had approached. He started to head back home to his house. When he got to his room, he still had a few minutes to spare, so he contemplated, what will I do? Moments later, the clock struck 12. The devil appeared, the TV cut on, and his phone began to ring. He was overstimulated in this moment. but he already knew what choice he was going to make. In front of him, the TV played, and it was a commercial he had shot. He looked at himself in awe, thinking how amazing he looked. And the number on the phone was Quincy. The devil stood between both and said,
So what is your final decision?
and he said, I choose to die a legend that no one will ever truly know.